all the email. KF5GH.
Oh. Do you have an analog telephone line and a 300 baud modem? Do you remember what those were?
Are those things that made all that doodly 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 noise about, I don't know, 20 years ago? Probably. Oh, I hated that. I was not on the internet until probably, I don't know, 2012, 10, maybe somewhere in there. Really late in life.
Oh, I was an early adopter. I was actually involved at work with a predecessor of the internet. General Telephone Electric, GTE, had something called Telenet. That was a packet communication system, and I was responsible helping to maintain some of that in Austin. That is back in the early 80s, like 80 through 82 or 3, along in there. And then in the early 90s, I got an ISDN line. That was at high speed at that time, like 64 kilobits, a digital line to my house through a company called Teleteam that was run by a local ham who is still around. And so that was an experience. And I've had my own domain name, Byram.net, since I think it was 1999 in 5BB.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think. Actually, it was probably closer to 1996 or 4, somewhere in there. Yeah, somewhere around there. I didn't discover it early. And I did just get your... There you go. KF5, thank you. KF5GH.
Okay, very good. If you look at the email, there's some links in it that are underlined, and if you click that, you can go to those websites and PDF files and everything. And you can even click on the contact link, and you'll be sending a message to Jamie Mock at FEMA. So there's all kinds of stuff there. Anyway, I thought about you as I was reading that, and I hope it's useful. Let me get off here. We got Skynet in 8 minutes. KF5GRH and N8WBR and 5BB clear. Good evening.
Thank you, Bill. I've got this email. I'm going to go click on the links and appreciate it very much. Thank you for thinking of me. KF5GRH, can't wait for Skynet.
Okay, Melissa. I looked at my records here. August the 25th of 1999, and it's when I created the Byram.net domain. And the reason I did that was that Byram.com was already owned by some company over in Great Britain. And I said, man, I'd sure better reserve my last name, so I got Byram.net. What a deal. N5BB clear.
You don't have to come back, but I'm sure you're like me. You remember the old cup modems that you stuck your handset for a standard old 500 telephone in to make your connection. WA5RFG.
WWR real quick with a comment.
Romy, come on in, Cat 5GH.
All right, sorry, it's off subject, but kind of Rollins here again. Earlier in the net, when Bill asked Rollin where he lived at, I spewed it out very quickly to my wife, who was sitting here listening, and I says, and then Rollin, quickly said the exact same coordinates, and I says to her, you know how I knew that? And she says, oh, because you know everything. And I laughed. I was like, no, because we were up on that roof there about a year ago. Good times, huh? NAWWR.
W5FC.
We had so much fun. Cat 5GH.
And it's all still up there working great, WA5RFG.
And I do remember the old acoustic modems back in 1971 or 72, when I was in high school. Used one of them at the high school in Austin. It was another high school, not the one I went to connect a Model 33 teletype to the University of Texas Computer Center, so we could log into the system, which is called Taurus, and write our Fortran programs, because I was in one of the first Fortran programming classes in high school in the early 70s. So yes, I'm very familiar with those acoustic coupler modems. 73, Skynet time, inside BB.
GigNet every fourth Monday at 7 p.m., W5FC.
Chairman, I need to make myself very clear. If we uplink now, Skynet will be in control of your military.
But you'll be in control of Skynet, right?
That is correct, sir.
Skynet.
Anyone need to use the repeater before we begin the 9 p.m. Skynet? Is KF5 PDS. My name is Billy, and I'll be your net control for this session of the DARC Skynet. Skynet is a weekly net called every Saturday night at 9 p.m. concerning the subject of astronomy. Our purpose is to help amateurs become more familiar with the nighttime and daytime sky, astronomy, and space in general. This net is open to all amateurs interested in this topic, and we encourage your participation and suggestions for this net. Stations with priority or emergency traffic may enter the net at any time by using the pro sign break and your call sign. Is there any emergency or priority traffic? This is a directed net. Please do not transmit without direction from net control. That would be me. And stations are reminded to ID at the end of your transmissions. WeeklyNet operates on 146.880 megahertz with a PL tone of 110.9. Check-ins via Echolink are also possible using the W5FC-R station ID or Echolink node 37247. Tonight's topics, astronomy charts, pictures, and live audio-video links are available online. Go to www.w5fc.org right now for the complete list. And remember to tell others about this popular net. All amateur operators are welcome. You need not be a member of any amateur radio club to participate. The net is 90 and is structured in several parts. General announcements, Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas events, Elixir Telescope, National Space Society events, discussion topic of the evening, Was Up, space exploration and space history, constellation of the week, space launches of the week, recent astronomical discoveries, visible satellite passages over the next couple of days, astronomical Q&A, and our 73 round. Amateurs licensed to transmit on this frequency are invited to check in. So at this time, I'll turn the net over to my alternate net control, Tom, KE5ICX, if you will do the check-in honors, please. KF5 PDS.
Very good, and thank you, Ms. Billy, and I'll do exactly that. This is KE5ICX. My name is Tom, and I'll be your alternate net control this evening. I'll go ahead and take well-power short-time check-ins. If you're one of those, please come with your call sign, phonetically your name. Let me know if you're well-power short-time.
W5BLT, Whiskey 5, Bravo, Lima, Tango, Bill, Garland, low power.
This is Whiskey 5, Golf, Uniform, Sierra, Gus, far northeast Dallas, low power, 5 watts.
Kilo X-Ray 7, Whiskey Tango Foxtrot, Sean, mobile from Louisville, short time.
November 8, Whiskey, Romeo, Romy, and Grapevine, short time.
power short time. I've got W5BLT, that's Bill in Garland, low power. W5GUS Gus, far northeast Dallas, low power. KX5WTF Sean, I think he said Louisville, short time. And then N8WWR, that's Romy in Grapevine, also short time. Do any of you have, who are now checked in, have anything you want to bring to the net? Please come with your call sign now.
KX7WTF, recheck.
Sean, KX5WTF, go ahead.
Just a quick correction on my call sign. It's Kilo X-Ray 7, Whiskey Tango Foxtrot.
I'll get that straightened out one of these days. Did you have anything else for the net? I've got you, KX7WTF.
Not tonight. KX7WTF, back to net.
All right, very good. I'll now take general check-ins. If you'd like to join us, please come with your call sign phonetically, your name, and where you're transmitting from.
This is Kilo Foxtrot 5, Juliet Hotel Alpha, Chaz, Mesquite.
Kilo India 5, Gulf Romeo Hotel. I just wanted to follow Chaz in northeast Dallas.
November Tango 5, Tango Mike, Tony, in East Dallas.
Kilo Foxtrot 5, Zulu Bravo Lima, Bill Farmers Branch.
November 5, Bravo, Bravo. Let's try that again. November 5, Bravo, Bravo. Bill on the other side in Irving.
Whiskey Bravo 5, Oscar Zulu Lima, Brenda in DeSoto.
Golf 5, Bravo Zulu Whiskey, Jane New Weather.
This is Kilo 5, Kilo, Tango X-Ray, Kelly in Quinlan.
This is Kilo Golf 5, Whiskey Victor Lima, James in Carrollton.
All right, that seems like a good place to pause. I've got KF5JHA, Chaz and Mesquite, KI5GRH, that's Melissa, Northeast Dallas, NT5TM, Tony, East Dallas, KF5ZDL, Mr. Bill, Farmers Branch, N5BB, the other Mr. Bill in Irving, WB50ZL, Miss Brenda, DeSoto, KG5BZW, J near Weatherford, K5KTX, Miss Kelly in Quinlan, KG5 Whiskey, Victor Lima, that's James in Carrollton. Do I have additional check-ins? Please come now.
Kilo Echo 5, Delta Kilo Victor, Scott, Seagoville.
Kilo Golf 5, Uniform Kilo Uniform, David, Mesquite.
This is Alpha Golf 5, Papa Mike, Rich and Rockwell, AG 5 p.m.
This is Kilo Golf 5, Alpha Papa Lima, Patrick in Dallas.
Okay, we picked up for him. I've got KE5DKB, Scott, my old buddy. He's in Seagoville. Hi, Scott. KG5UKU, David, Mesquite. AG5PM, Rich in Rockwell. KG5APL, Patrick in Dallas. I'll do one more round of check-ins before going to Echolink. If you'd like to join us, please come with your call sign name and where you're transmitting from. Okay, all I got was a dead key on that and no audio. Let me do this. Let me go to Echolink and then I'll do another round over air. So if you're over on Echolink, you'd like to join us this evening, please come now with your call sign, your name, where you're transmitting from, and I'll give you some extra time. Echolink only, please. All right, I'm going to pencil them in. They said they could hear John, K5GDW, over in Norman. I didn't hear him over the radio. We know it's working because our net control is there, so not sure what happened there. All right, any final check-ins before we begin the net? Please come now with your call sign, your name, and where you're transmitting from. Okay, Miss Billy, we've got 20 check-ins so far, including both of us. Back to you. This is KE5ICX.
Thank you very much, Tom, and welcome to everyone who have checked in on Skynet. All right, so let's start with general announcements. Do we have any general announcements for this evening's net? These can be ham, astronomical, space, or of general interest to licensed hams. If you have an announcement, please come now with your call sign.
November Tango 5, Tango Mike.
And T5PM, Tony, good evening. What announcements do you have for us this evening?
Good evening, Billy. It's always great to hear you. I'd like to encourage all area hams to please check out w5fc.org. We have nominations open for the Whitten and Griffith Community Service Award and a sign-up form for Winter Field Day. Yes, that's a week from today, so actually less than a week away, because setup starts at 10 a.m. at the T.W. Richardson Grove Park in Irving, Texas. You don't have to plan on camping out. We're just going to be on the air from 1 p.m. until 8 p.m. It should be a really good opportunity for ham radio, emergency preparedness, and fun and friendship. So please have a look at w5fc.org. And if you know someone who you'd like to nominate for our Community Service Award, you know, a Dallas Amateur Radio Club member who's been doing things to promote community service, you should go nominate that person. That's really very well detailed at w5fc.org. Of course, this is not our last net of the night. We do have the Afterglow movie discussion featuring I'll Follow You Down. This is a repeat from last week. The 2013 time travel movie I'll Follow You Down will be discussed again tonight on this repeater at 10:30 p.m. And finally, I want to mention briefly what I'm doing with my other ear and my other microphone. We have a single sideband contest or operating activity going on, the North American QSO Party. I'm doing this just because it's so, hard for me. I'm gotten so used to FT8 that actually having to tune my ears up and find the faint people out there, wow, it's so hard. Well, if you want to test your station, it runs till just before midnight our time, so you could be listening to Skynet and making contacts in the North American QSO Party at the same time. This is NT5TM. Thank you, Billy. Thank you, Tom.
Thank you very much, Tony, and it's always great to hear from you. Does anybody else have any announcements for this evening's net? If so, please come now with your call sign. Hearing any, so I'll go ahead with a few announcements of my own. The AMSAT Radio Amateur Satellite Group has 2 nets available to Dallas residents on Tuesday evenings at 8 p.m. Central Time. You will need Echolink installed and you registered. You can find the net under Groups and AMSAT. Also, a live audio link is available on their website at www.amsatnet.com. This net originates in Houston, Texas. The Dallas AMSAT Net East, Dallas-Fort Worth, Texas, is every Tuesday at 8 p.m. on this repeater, 146.880 megahertz with a PL tone of 110.9. Tuesdays, Tom N5HYC is net control. All are welcome to check in. First Tuesday of the month is the DARC Club Night, so there's no AMSAT East on that night. Plus, AMSAT Net West is every Wednesday at 9 p.m. on the Arlington repeater, 147.140 megahertz with a PL tone of 110.9 and a positive offset. The ARC hosts several Monday night nets. The first Monday of the month is Ham Fixin's Net. If you want to come and get some great recipes, or if you have a recipe to share, or you have a question or anecdote about food, join us. Fixin's Net. Join us on the second Monday of the month for MCOM 101, Emergency Communications. On back for a second helping of Ham Fixin's Net on the third Monday. And on fourth Monday is GeekNet. And if there is a fifth Monday in the month, then we will have a surprise net. If we told you what it is, it wouldn't be a surprise. On-air participation is encouraged. Tuesdays, AMSAT East at 8 p.m., question and answers, info, and news for amateur satellites. And Fridays, CERT City simulation at 8 p.m. Learn about emergency radio communications via CERT-trained amateur radio operators. Melissa, KI5GRH, is usually the net control. Visit the most disaster-prone city in the universe every Friday at CERT City. All are welcome. And Saturdays is the Night of Nets, with TechNet from 7 to 8 p.m., and of course at 9 p.m. Skynet, and following Skynet at 10:30 p.m. is the Afterglow Movie Net. More on that in just a moment. The first and third Sundays, Dallas Amateur Radio Club meeting on the air. And daily there is the ARRL Net National Traffic System Training Net every night at 6:30 p.m. Central Time. All are welcome to check in on any or all of these nets. And as promised, after Skynet at 10:30 p.m. on Saturday night, we have the Afterglow Movie Net. If you're new to this, what we do is we pick a movie and then we watch it during the week, and then on the Afterglow Movie Net, we'll discuss the movie. Give a brief synopsis, and then we'll discuss things such as plot, characterization, special effects, music, and any other interesting tidbits about that movie. And then at the end of the net, we pick another movie to watch in the coming week. So this is a great net, and all are welcome. So at this time, I'll turn the net over to Tom, KE5ICX, if you will give us tonight's Afterglow info from KF5TDS.
Very good. Thank you, Miss Billy. This is KE5ICX. So you're asking why we have the same movie a second week in a row. Well, what happened last week was that the repeater had a lot of noise on it because they had a lot of wind, and that is going to be fixed. But fortunately, winds are calm tonight, so we can actually talk about the movie. Last week, from what I understand, because I had to bow out, nobody checked in, and I think it was just from fatigue. So we'll give it another shot tonight. Here's the synopses. The professor looked in both directions, waited for the green light, and then started briskly across the street. Immediately, a man started yelling at him. "Get out of the street! Can't you see I'm driving here?" The man vowed never to return to New Jersey, having witnessed some of the worst driving in the history of driving. This is a common feeling amongst many people who visit New Jersey. Flash forward 12 years later, and the professor's son, Earl, has been waiting for his father to return. Not being one of the brightest bulbs in the back, thinking his father's Air Canada flight was just late because of the metric system, wasn't winning him any free tuition at even the much-maligned Arizona State University. Arrow then came to a second unlikely possibility. His father's disappearance was either because of an errant time machine or those water monkeys you purchased by mail on the back of the comic books had grown to outlandish size and taken his father into their underwater monkey kingdom. As the underwater monkey theory was looking less and less plausible, Earl signed and ordered the X-ray glasses and the authentic cardboard time machine, also from the same comic book. If there was one thing we could say about Earl, was his consistency. So we're going to try that at 10:30 p.m., and we do have a suggestion for the following week, and it is available online for free. Free, I tell you. Attack of the Killer Tomatoes. But we have to get through. I'll follow you down tonight from 2013. That's it from me. Miss Billy, back to you. KE5ICX.
Thank you very much, Tom, and appreciate you taking a second stab at that movie. I know it was a rough go on that night, so Afterglow movie is a great net, so round after Skynet for that net. All right, next up is Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas events. So if there's someone on frequency that would like to give us information about the Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas, please come now with your call sign.
Sure, this is KF5JHA.
JHA, Chaz, good evening. What information do you have for us about the Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas?
Thank you, Billy. I do need to talk to Melissa. If she wants to follow me, I might have to tow her along. And that's a funny joke if you understand what's going on with her. Anyway, the next Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas Club meeting will be on Friday, January the 28th. That's in 6 days. At 7:30 p.m., the meeting will be held on Zoom. Dr. Noah Pearson from Montana State University will be the featured speaker and will be speaking about gravity waves. Task Club members have already received a link to the Zoom meeting. Let's see now. And Saturday night, public observing sessions have been placed on hold because of COVID. One of the reasons that Skynet was picked to be on Saturday nights was so that there was an opportunity for live reports from the TASS public observing sessions that are also held on Saturday nights, but of course they're not happening, so no live reports from them. Check the TASS website, texasastro.org, for up-to-date information and details about meetings and public observing sessions. Oh, and by the way, I'm the one that suggested the Attack of the Killer Tomatoes. It's my favorite B movie. Back to our net control, Billy, KF5PDS.
Thank you very much, Chaz. All right, next up is National Space Society events and activities. At this time, I'll turn that over to Bill, N5BB, if you'll give us information about the National Space Society.
Very good, Billy. This is N5BB. I happen to be the membership director of the North Texas chapter of the National Space Society. Our normal meeting times are the second Sunday afternoon of every month, and the normal meeting location is Spring Creek Barbecue at Beltline and 183 in Irving. But we've been meeting all but 1 month since the pandemic started virtually. And our last meeting, virtual meeting, was on January the 9th. The presenter was a member of our local chapter, and she gave a very good presentation about food in space. She had done a lot of research, and it was really neat. Our next meeting is going to be several weeks from now on Sunday, January the 13th. And, February the 13th, Sunday, February the 13th. And I don't know the meeting topic yet for that meeting. The National Space Society, for their members, the national organization, has a lot of other interesting virtual events that have been going on. The last big one was a space forum last Thursday of last week on the 13th of January, where they discussed the Webb Space Telescope, the first light machine. And that was a very nice, very, very good informative presentation. Lots of information packed in that meeting, virtual meeting. If you have any interest in the National Space Society or the North Texas chapter, you can reach me at space@byram.net. That's SPACE at BYROM.net, or N5BB at ARRL.net. That's November 5 Bravo Bravo at ARRL.net. That's all I've got for tonight. This is N5BB. And by the way, the Webb Space Telescope is rapidly going to the final destination, and it should be there, believe it or not, on Monday in 5BB.
Thanks very much, Bill. I also want to throw in that the National Space Society of North Texas has an active Facebook page. Just type National Space Society of North Texas into the search box and request access, and you'll receive meeting reminders and club activities. This is KF5 PDS, Billy, your net control for this session of the DARC Skynet. Our next up is this discussion topic of the evening. So tonight I've chosen as my topic Spin Launch. From the Wikipedia page, Spin Launch is a spaceflight technology development company working on mass accelerator technology to move payloads to space. As of January 2020, the company has raised $80 million in funding, with investors including Kleiner Perkins, Google Ventures, Airbus Ventures, Catapult Ventures, Lauder Partners, John Doerr, and Byers Family. Launch was founded in 2014 by Jonathan Yaney in Sunnyvale, California. The company's current headquarters are in Long Beach, California. In 2020, Spin Launch continues development of its 140,000 square foot corporate headquarters in Long Beach and of its flight test facility at Spaceport America in New Mexico, which is leased at least in 2019. In late 2021, Spin Launch was named one of the world's best employers in the space industry by Everything Space, a recruitment platform specializing in the space industry. Spin Launch is developing a kinetic energy space launch system that reduces dependency on traditional chemical rockets with the goal of significantly lowering the cost of access to space while increasing the frequency of launch. Technology uses a vacuum-sealed centrifuge to spin a rocket then hurl it to space at up to 5,000 miles per hour. The rocket then ignites its engines at an altitude of roughly 200,000 feet to reach orbital speed of 17,500 miles per hour. If successful, the acceleration concept is projected to both lower the cost of launches and to use much less power, with the price of a single space launch reduced by a factor of 20 to under $500,000 US. At Spaceport America in New Mexico on October 22, 2021, Spin Launch conducted the first vertical test of their accelerator at 20% of its full power capacity, hurling a 10-foot-long passive projectile to an altitude of tens of thousands of feet. This test accelerator is 108 feet in diameter, which makes it a one-third scale of the operating system that is being designed. You can go visit and find out more details on their website at spinlaunch.com. Their website, you can learn more about their history and their project to get to space. You can meet this suborbital accelerator and see it in action. Launch also demonstrates satellites can be easily compatible for kinetic launch without compromising cost, structural integrity, and mass. They're developing a catalog of optimized subsystems as well as fully integrated turnkey solutions to deliver less expensive, more scalable access to space. And they are also hiring. You can join a team of innovators reinventing access to space by looking at their employment opportunities on their website. So there's just a brief introduction to a new type of launch system called Spin Launch. This time I'm going to turn the net over to Chaz, KF5JHA, if you will tell us what's up from TDS.
Thank you, Billy. Just for those of you that are not watching the game, Chiefs heads are 10, 49ers are 3. Okay, I'm multiprocessing tonight. So this is Chaz, KF5JH8. My degree is in astrophysics. I'm in charge of the astrophysics lab and the geology and environmental science labs at Dallas College on the Brookhaven campus. And we call this segment of Skynet Was Up. Slide Master, slide number 2. I'm not watching the video version of Skynet tonight because I'm watching the football game instead. Slide number 2, full moon was on January the 17th. So the current phase of the moon is a waning gibbous. On January the 25th, the moon phase will be third quarter. On January the 30th, the moon is at perigee, which is the point in the moon's orbit that is closest to the Earth at a distance at this time of 362,252 kilometers. The new phase of the moon will be on January the 31st. On February the 8th, the moon is at its first quarter. On February the 10th, the moon is at apogee, which is the point in the moon's orbit that is furthest from the Earth at a distance of 404,896 kilometers. Slide Master, slide number 3, please. Really? Total Eclipse of the Heart was originally written for Meatloaf? Oh, I'm just reading stuff off of Echolink. You need to really be on Echolink at the same time as the video version and also the RF version, all simultaneously. It's a lot of fun that way. Oh, I'm sorry. Slide number 3, I think, is what I'm on. On January the 29th, the Moon and Mars will be in conjunction with Venus very close beside them, all in the early morning southeastern sky. I woke up early enough, looked out toward the southeast, and saw Venus really bright in this morning sky. It was nice and clear and crisp. Slide number 4, please. On January the 30th, The moon is now in conjunction with the planet Mercury in the early morning southeastern sky. It may be difficult to see this conjunction due to the strong twilight, and the conjunction is very low in the sky. Slide number 5. On February the 2nd, the moon is in conjunction with Jupiter in the southwestern evening sky. And this is KF5, JHA, and this is Skynet. Slide master, slide number 6. Once again, the Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas Club meeting will be on Friday, January the 28th. That's in 6 days, 7:30 p.m. It'll be a Zoom meeting. Club members have already received an email about the Zoom meeting link. Dr. Noah Pearson from Montana State University will be the featured speaker and will be speaking about gravity waves. Should be a very fascinating meeting. Once again, Saturday night public observing sessions have been put on hold. And if you want to find out more information about the Texas Astronomical Society, go to texasastro.org. Slide masters, slide number 7. Now, do any of you out there in Radio Land have any questions or need a fill on any of the information, or do you just have a general astronomy question? I don't know everything, but I may know the answer to the question, or someone else on the net might know the answer to your question. Come now with your call sign if you have a question. I hear nothing. Okay. Slide number 8, please. So as the moon wanes at the end of January, so do these words for this segment of Skynet. Stay safe, keep well, pray for our world. It's the only one where humans live right now. And until next week, actually I'll be doing another Skynet segment in a few minutes. Keep looking up so you know what's up. And this is KF5, JHA, Backdoor Net Control, Dr. Billy, KF5, PDS.
Thank you very much, Cass. All right, next up is space exploration and space history. And Tom, I don't have an indication to whose turn it is for this segment. Can you pop it over in the chat, please? Thank you very much. So at this time, I will turn the net over to Brenda, WB5OZL. The net is yours.
Thank you, Billy. Space exploration news. The first item is about Ingenuity. NASA's Ingenuity Mars helicopter has notched yet another milestone, the first weather-related flight delay on another planet. Ingenuity was scheduled to make its 19th red planet hop on January 5th. On New Year's Day, however, a strong dust storm kicked up near Jezero crater, which the helicopter and its robotic partner, NASA's Life Hunting Perseverance rover, have been exploring since February of 2021. This was not great news for the helicopter team, as atmospheric dust will decrease the amount of sunlight that reaches Ingenuity's solar panels, which charge the batteries needed for flight. Jonathan Babston and Michael Mishna of Ingenuity's Weather Environment Team wrote in an update on Wednesday, January 19th. Furthermore, dust in the atmosphere is heated by sunlight and warms the surrounding atmosphere, resulting in a reduction of the already low-density air in which Ingenuity must fly, added Babston and Mishna, both of whom are based at NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory in Southern California. Then we had ULA launch, powerful United Launch Alliance Atlas V rocket launched 2 Neighborhood Watch satellites for the United States Space Force on Friday. That was yesterday. The Atlas V lifted off from Florida's Cape Canaveral Space Force Station at 2 p.m. Eastern. on Friday, carrying 2 identical geosynchronous space situational awareness program, that's GSSAP, satellites to orbit. The rocket will deploy the 2 satellites around 6 hours and 45 minutes after launch. The GSSAP craft will then make their way to their final destination, a near geosynchronous orbit of about 22,300 miles above the equator. Friday's flight was the first ever for an Atlas V in the 511 configuration, one that features a 5-meter wide payload fairing, a single-engine Centaur upper stage, and 1 solid rocket booster strapped to the rocket's side. Moving on to birthdays, Buzz Aldrin, January 20th, 1930, and he flew on Gemini 12 and Apollo 11. Jerry L. Ross, January 20th, 1948, STS 61B 27 37 55 74 88 and 110. Jerry Williams, January 18th, 1958, STS 101, Soyuz TMA-8, Expedition 13, Soyuz TMA-16, Expedition 2122, and Soyuz TMA-20M, Expedition 4748. Jerry M. Leininger, January 16th, 1955, STS 648184, which is Mir EO 2223. Daniel Brandenstein, January 17th, 1943, STS 851G 32 and 49. Thomas David Jones, January 22nd, 1955, STS 59, 68, 80, and 98. Joseph R. Tanner, January 21st, 1950, STS 66, 82, 97, and 115. And Michael Coates, January 16th, 1946, STS 41D, 29, 39. Blaine Hammond, January 16th, 1952, STS 39 and 64. This week in space history, January 19th was the launch of New Horizons, the anniversary of that. NASA's New Horizons spacecraft is the first spacecraft to explore Pluto up close, flying by the dwarf planet and its moons on January 14th, 2015. In early 2019, New Horizons flew past its second major science target, 2014 MU-69, the most distant object ever explored up close. And Pioneer 10, originally designated Pioneer 8F, is an American space probe launched in 1972 and weighing 569 pounds that completed the first mission to the planet Jupiter. Thereafter, Pioneer 10 became the first of 5 artificial objects to achieve the escape velocity needed to leave the solar system. This space exploration project was conducted by the NASA Ames Research Center in California. Pioneer 10 was assembled around a hexagonal bus with a 2.74 meter diameter parabolic dish high gain antenna, and the spacecraft was spin stabilized around the axis of the antenna. Its electric power was supplied by 4 radioisotope thermoelectric generators that provided a combined 155 watts at launch. It was launched on May 3rd, 1972 by an Atlas Centaur expendable vehicle from Cape Canaveral, Florida. Between July 15th, 1972 and February 15th, 1973, it became the first craft to traverse the asteroid belt. Photography of Jupiter began November 6, 1973 at a range of 25 million kilometers, and about 500 images were transmitted. The closest approach to the planet was on December 3, 1973 at a range of 132,252 kilometers. During the mission, the onboard instruments were used to study the asteroid belt, the environment around Jupiter, the solar wind, cosmic rays, and eventually the far reaches of the solar system and heliosphere. Radio communications were lost with Pioneer 10 on January 23, 2003, because of the loss of electric power for its radio transmitter with the probe at a distance of 12 billion kilometers from Earth. All right, back to net. This is WB50ZL.
Thank you very much, Brenda. This is KF5CDS, Billy, your net control for this session of the DARC Skynet. All right, next up is Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week. So at this time, I will return the net to Chaz, KF5JHA, if you will tell us about the Constellation of the Week.
Thank you again, Dr. Billy. This is Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week, and it's named in honor of our silent key, Carolyn, KC5OZT. Carolyn contributed to Skynet each week from almost its beginning in 2012 until May of 2019. By the way, we've just started our 11th year at Skynet. So she contributed from 2012 until May of 2019 with a detailed look at one particular constellation each week. Since there are about 52 easily visible constellations seen in Texas throughout the year, out of the 88 total constellations, so Miss Caroline covered the entire sky seen over North Texas in a year. In her honor, we've continued that tradition of a constellation per week and named this segment after her. Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week this week is Taurus the Bull. Taurus is the 17th largest constellation in the sky, occupying an area of 797 square degrees. Its name means bull in Latin. The constellation is symbolized by the bull's head. It's one of the oldest constellations. Its history dates back to the Bronze Age. Taurus is one of the 12 constellations of the zodiac, first cataloged by Greek astronomer Claudius Ptolemy in the 2nd century. In Greek mythology, the constellation is associated with Zeus, who transformed himself into a bull to get close to Europa in order to abduct her. Slide Master, slide number 10, please. Yes, JJ, my joke segment is about to start, and that's the reason why everyone stays so late on Skynet, is so you can hear my good jokes. And usually they're about the constellation of the month, so here we go. Why do bulls wear bells? Because their horns don't work. Oh, you've heard this one before. What's worse than a bull in a China's chop? A hedgehog in a balloon factory. That's what I think, anyway. I used to be a bull rider, and I was doing really well. Until that guy from Walmart came out and unplugged the electricity. Speaking of mechanical bulls, where do they come from? They're raised on a wrench. Okay, I have a few more. I used to work on a ranch, but that kept cows and bulls. But the pay was utterly terrible. The cows and bulls, utterly terrible. Okay. What do you call a bull when it goes through a door? Adorable. And the last joke for this segment, what do you call 4 bullfighters standing in quicksand? Cuatro cinco. Slide number 11, please, Slide Master. And this is KF5JJ, and this is Skynet. Aldebaran Alpha Tauri is the brightest star in Taurus, and long considered to be one of the bull's eyes. The name Aldebaran is derived from the Arabic word which means the follower, supposedly from the fact that the star follows the Pleiades across the sky. Aldebaran is an orange giant star, type K5, with a diameter of 44 times that of the Sun. It's about 65 light years in distance and is 150 times more luminous than our Sun. Aldebaran is the brightest star other than the Sun, which can be occulted by the Moon, and such occultations have been observed since ancient times. According to Burnham's Celestial Handbook, Edmund Halley studied the records of occultations of Aldebaran and was observed in Athens in March of 509 AD. More than 1,000 years after it took place, Halley concluded that the event could not have occurred unless the position of Aldebaran had been several minutes of arc further north at the time. From a comparison of his observations of the positions with those reported in ancient records, Halley found that Sirius, Arcturus, Aldebaran had measurable changed their positions since ancient times. And in 1718, Halley announced the discovery of what we now call proper motion. Slide number 12, please. The Pleiades star cluster M45 is also known as the Seven Sisters. The Seven Sisters name comes from the mythological account that the seven daughters of Atlas, who were placed in the heavens to help them overcome their grief over the fate of their father, who was supporting the world on his shoulders. Indeed, the brightest stars in the cluster are named after the Seven Sisters and their father and their mother. The Pleiades is one of the special class of objects that looks better in binoculars than in most telescopes. Of course, the Pleiades are easily visible with no optical aid at all. You can just see them with your naked eye. I've seen them within 7 miles of downtown Dallas, so they're pretty bright, as long as they're overhead. The nebulosity surrounding the stars is easily visible. I find that high powers, where only part of the star cluster's field of view, makes it easier to see, at least for most people. And in 10-inch telescopes, an F5 Dob, you can view the entire cluster at about 20 power with about a 62-millimeter wide field of view 2-inch eyepiece. The dazzling light from the stars makes the nebulosity difficult to see. Most people like viewing the Pleiades this way because they can see the entire cluster in a wide field binocular style of view. With 10 inches of aperture behind you, you can see many of the fainter stars, but your eyes are probably too dazzled to really see the nebulosity very well. However, an 8-inch F10 Dynamax Schmidt Cassegrain telescope that I've looked through with a 52-millimeter eyepiece yields about 40 power and only shows part of the cluster, yet the nebulosity is easily noticeable then, particularly around the star Merope. The entire cluster contains about 100 stars and spans a spherical region of space about 14 light years in diameter. It's about 400 light years away. Slide master, slide number 13. By the way, the game is tied up. Cheeseheads 10 and 49ers are 10. Only about 4 minutes left in the game. So, that's slide number 13 is where I'm at. The Hyades is known as Lot 25, and the Hyades in mythology were the half-sisters of the Pleiades. The stars of the Hyades were often associated with rainy and stormy weather in ancient times, and the name itself is derived from the Greek word meaning to rain. Like the Pleiades, the Hyades look better in binoculars than they do in most telescopes, even more than the Pleiades, since the span is a much larger area. Like the Pleiades, they are easily made out with the unaided eye, and the cluster and Aldebaran form a distinct V shape that marks the face of the bull. Aldebaran is not a member of the Hyades, but it is actually a foreground object 65 light years away. The Hyades are over twice as far away at 151 light years. The Hyades form a second closest open star cluster to our solar system. The only known cluster that's closer is the Ursa Major moving group, also known as Colander 285, of which most of the stars in the Big Dipper are members. The core of the Ursa Major moving group is about 80 light years away. Slide number 14, please. M1, the first object in the famous Messier catalog. M1 is the Crab Nebula, the remnant of the supernova explosion that happened on July 4th, 1054 AD, because several cultures recorded that. So almost 1,000 years have passed since the supernova explosion. The Crab Nebula is easily seen in binoculars and even the smallest telescopes. M1 is usually found in a line between Elnath and Zeta Tauri, the tip of the bull's other horn. M1 lies on its line about 1 degree from Zeta Tauri. Binoculars simply show a small fuzzy patch, but even in a telescope of 3-inch class, the nebula will show some basic lumpiness outline, just like in photos. Of course, more detail is visible in much larger instruments. Slide number 15, please. NGC 1647 is also known as the Pirate Moon Cluster. Dave Hutchinson writes, NGC 1647 is a nice open cluster of about 80 stars. It is easy to find because it's just 3 degrees away from Aldebaran between the bull's horns, and it stands out well in binoculars or a finder scope. It fills the lowest power view in a Dynamax telescope, and looking at it in 40 power in the Dynamax reminds us of looking at the Beehive cluster in Cancer, but only at 20 power. There is a nice bright pair of stars at the southern edge of the cluster, with a fainter member of the pair having a distinct reddish-orange color. These two stars are probably foreground stars since they're brighter than the rest of the cluster. And this is KF5, JHA, and this is Skynet. Slide number 16, please. There are many more Astronomical League observing program objects in the constellation of Taurus the Bull. I've just given you a sampling of a few of those objects. The Astronomical League has over 70 different observing programs. I believe it's 73, most of which have around 100 objects. If you observe just 10 different objects in an observing program each month, then you can earn an observing certificate and a pen in about a year. Slide number 17, and that is Miss Carolyn's constellation of the week, Taurus the Bull. I want to thank my friends Dave Hutchinson and Dennis Harwell for the research and words on the deep sky objects that I've used, borrow, and I steal for every Skynet. I also at times use the website constellation-guide.com for information. Now next time I'll take a look at 2 constellations, Sslv, the Chisel, and Columba, the Dove. That'll be interesting. This is KF5, JHA, sending it back to Dr. Billy. KF5, PDS. 73, everyone.
Jazz. All right, next up is space launches for the week. At this time, I'll turn the net over to Tom, KE5ICX, if you'll give us a report on.
All right, very good. I'll do exactly that. This is KE5ICX. All this comes from Spaceflight Now launch schedule, so you can go to spaceflightnow.com/launch schedule. So in January, we don't have any dates yet. Astro Rocket 3, this will be launched from SLC-46 from Cape Canaveral Space Force Station in Florida. A commercial small satellite launch vehicle developed by Astra will launch 6 small experimental CubeSats developed by NASA and U.S. universities. The payloads include a CubeSat radio interferometry experiment consisting of 2 small satellites, the BAMA-1 CubeSat, the Ionospheric Neutron Content Analyzer CubeSat, and a mission called R5S1. The CubeSats were selected for launch by NASA through the agency's Venture Class Launch Services program. Also in January, we have Black Sky 16 and 17 launching from the Hyatt Peninsula in New Zealand. A Rocket Lab Electron rocket will launch 2 small second-generation satellites for Black Sky's commercial fleet of Earth observation spacecraft. On January 27th, we have a Falcon 9 launch. This is from SLC-40 at Cape Canaveral Space Force Station in Florida. Falcon 9 rocket will launch the second Cosmos Skymed second generation, or CSG-2, radar surveillance satellite for ASI, the Italian Space Agency. The spacecraft was built by South Alina Space. On January 29th, we have another Falcon 9 launch, this time from Launch Complex 39A from Kennedy Space Center. The Falcon 9 rocket will launch with another batch of Starlink Internet satellites. Then we have a Falcon 9 Enroll 87 launching from SLC-4E. This is on the other coast, Vandenberg Space Force Base in California. Will launch classified payload for the National Reconnaissance Office, the U.S. government's spy satellite agency. The mission is designated Enroll 87. Also to be determined, the Sslv launch. This is from Satish Dhawan Space Center in Sriharikota, India. India's small satellite launch vehicle, or SSLV, will launch on its first orbital test flight, consisting of 3 solid-fueled stages and a liquid-fueled upper stage. The SSLV is a new Indian launch vehicle designed to carry very small satellites into low Earth orbit. Then finally, we have, to be determined, an SSLV Black Sky Global. Let's see here. Is that, yes, same group, Satish Dhawan Space Center. This one will launch on its first commercial mission with 4 Earth observation satellites for Black Sky Global, a Seattle-based company. The rideshare mission for Black Sky is being arranged by Space Flight. That's the name of the company. Then finally, to be determined, again, from Satish Dhawan Space Center, RESAT-1A. This is India's Polar Satellite Launch Vehicle, or PSLV, designated PSLV C-52, will launch the Italian RESAT-1A radar Earth observation satellite. So there's a lot of activity over at Satish Dhawan Space Center in India. Okay, back to you. Oh, I wanted to mention that Philippe KI5KTZ has also checked in. Back to you, Miss Billy. This is KE5ICX.
I should have had to do a check-in round before you gave your report. Would you mind doing a quick check-in round before we turn the net over to our next reporter? And then if you'll just give it back to me after the check-in, and then I'll pass it along. The KE5ICX from KF5TDS.
Oh, sure, no problem. This is KE5ICX. I'll go ahead and do another round of check-ins. If you'd like to join us, please come now with your call sign phonetically, your name, where you're transmitting from.
Kilo India 5, Juliet Charlie Mike, Thomas and Euless, no traffic.
Kilo India 5, Tango India Delta, Chad Dallas.
Okay, there was a double, so I think there's actually 3 check-ins, but these are the 2 I got. I got KI5JCM, that's Thomas and Euless, and I got KI5TID, that's Chad in Dallas. I think there was another, maybe more check-ins. Please come now with your call sign phonetically, your name, where you're transmitting from.
Golf 5, Zulu Mike Golf, Joe in Arlington.
pick up one more. I've got KG5ZMG. That's Joe in Arlington. There is another station. I think it's the same one that tried on the first round of check-ins. You have no audio. You are holding the repeater, but there is a zero audio. You may want to check your mic. Billy, do you want me to go ahead and send it over to Brenda, or do you want to take it back? We're at 24 check-ins.
Okay, I copied 24 check-ins. Yeah, I'll take it back and I'll send it over to Brenda. Next, we have an astronomical discoveries. So Brenda, WV50ZL, if you'll give us that report from KFI PDF.
Thank you, Billy. This is WV50ZL. Tonight's article is entitled, How Many Black Holes Are Out There in the Universe? This is one of the most relevant and pressing questions in modern astrophysics and cosmology. The intriguing issue has recently been addressed by the SISSA PhD student Alex Sicilia, supervised by Professor Andrea Lappi and Dr. Lumen Bocco, together with other collaborators from CISA and from other national and international institutions. In the first paper of a series just published in the Astrophysical Journal, the authors have investigated the demographics of stellar mass black holes, which are black holes with masses between a few to some hundred solar masses that originated at the end of the life of the massive stars. According to the new research, a remarkable amount, around 1% of the overall ordinary baryonic matter of the universe is locked up in stellar mass black holes. Astonishingly, the researchers have found that the number of black holes within the observable universe at present time is 40 times 10 to the 18th power, in other words, 4, followed by 19 zeros. A new method to calculate the number of black holes. As authors explain of the research explain, the important result has been obtained thanks to an original approach which combines the state-of-the-art stellar and binary evolution code SEVN developed by CISA researcher Dr. Mario Spera to empirical prescriptions for relevant physical properties of galaxies, especially the rate of star formation, the amount of stellar mass, and the metallicity of the interstellar medium, which are all important elements to define the number and the masses of stellar black holes. Exploiting these crucial elements in a self-consistent approach, thanks to their new computation approach, the researchers have then derived the number of stellar black holes and their mass distribution across the whole history of the universe. Alex Sicilia, the first author of the study, comments, the innovative character of this work is in the coupling of a detailed model of stellar and binary evolution with advanced recipes for star formation and the metal enrichment in individual galaxies. This is one of the first and one of the most robust ab initio computation of the stellar black hole mass function across cosmic history. The estimate of the number of black holes in the observable universe is not the only issue investigated by the scientists in this piece of research. They have also explored the various formation channels of black holes of different masses, like isolated stars, binary systems, and stellar clusters. According to their work, the most massive stellar black holes originate mainly from dynamical events in stellar clusters. Specifically, the researchers have shown that such events are required to explain the mass function of coalescing black holes as estimated from gravitational wave observations by the LIGO Virgo collaboration. Lumen Bocco co-author of the paper, comments, our work provides a robust theory for the generation of light speeds for supermassive black holes at high redshift and can constitute a starting point to investigate the origin of heavy seeds that we will pursue in the forthcoming paper. Professor Andrea Lappi, Cecilia's supervisor and coordinator of the PhD in physics and cosmology at CISA, adds, this research is really multidisciplinary, covering aspects of and requiring expertise in stellar astrophysics, galaxy formation and evolution, gravitational wave, and multi-messenger astrophysics. As such, it needs collaborative efforts from various members of the CISA Astrophysics and Cosmology Group and a strong networking with external collaborators. Alex Cecilia's work occurs in the context of an innovative training project, network project, BID4BEST. I guess that's bid for best. That stands for Big Data Application for Black Hole Evolution Studies. It's co-led by Professor Andrea Lappi from CISA. That was been funded by the European Union with about 3.5 million euros overall. It involves several academic and industrial partners to provide PhD training to 13 early-stage researchers in the area of black hole formation and evolution by exploiting advanced data science techniques. This is from Science Daily. That's all I got. Back to net, WB5OZL.
Thanks very much. All right, at this time, I'm going to turn it back over to Tom, KE5ICX, if you'll give us a report on visible satellite passages over the next couple of days from KF5 PDS.
All right, very good. Thank you, Miss Billy. And this is KE5ICX. Well, I have bad news. There's nothing for the ISS for any passes this week over the Dallas-Fort Worth area. So forget about it. But we do have Tiangong, that's the Chinese space station that is flying over. We have a couple of passes that are pretty good for it. January 26, 1.5 magnitude. It will be at 7:27 p.m. our time. It'll reach its highest point at 7:30, 56 degrees out of the west-southwest, and it'll fall at 1930 local time at 56 degrees, so it's going to go into shadow on the 27th. Following day, 1.1 magnitude, will be at 18:27 in the afternoon, or evening, out of the west-southwest, reach its highest point almost overhead, 1830 at 76 degrees, and fall to the south-southeast at 1833, so that's a full pass, disappearing at 11 degrees above the horizon. Next up is Endosat. This is the only other thing I could find that actually had some decent passes. This one is always, this is the large environmental satellite that is decommissioned, but it's so gigantic that it does provide some nice reflection, so you can track it, and it is north-south tracking, so it's in a polar orbit. We have January 23rd has a good pass, 2.9 magnitude at 5:16 in the morning on the north-northeast. It'll go directly overhead at 5:21. And it'll fall to the east-southeast at 5:26. On the 25th, let's see here, there is a 3.0 magnitude. It's getting a little tough here in the Dallas area, but you might see it. 5:41 out of the north in the morning. It reaches its highest point at 52 degrees at 5:46 and fall at 5:51 to the south-southwest. Surprise. Next up is the 26th, following day, 3.3 magnitude, 5:05 a.m. out of the north-northeast, reaches its highest point at 5:10 at 65 degrees, and then falls to the south at, surprise, 5:15. So there you have it. Those are the only passes I can really give you. Well, there's a couple others, but I'm not going to bother since they're on the other page there. But at any rate, Let me do this. I'll take additional check-ins before I hand it back to our net control. Are there any additional check-ins? Please come now with your call sign, your name, and where you're transmitting from.
This is Whiskey Bravo number 4, Mike Foxtrot India WB4MFI Ted Dallas Low Power.
Okay, I picked WB4MFI. That's Ted in Dallas. Low power. I got you checked in, Ted, as always. And another station came in. I wonder if it was the station with no audio. This time it was way over-modulated. We couldn't hear you at all. Just a massive noise. Try again. See if you can go somewhere in between, I think. I'm guessing it's the same person. Or anyone else who'd like to check in, please come now. All right, Miss Billy, we're up to 25 check-ins. This is KE5ICX.
Dad, I think you doubled, Tom. I think there was someone on Echo Link. Sound like they were from Augusta, Georgia. Them over on Echo Link, I think. And copies of that would be 26.
All right, the station on Echolink or anyone on Echolink who'd like to check in, please come now. I'll give you extra time. Okay, well, if somebody can give me a relay as to whoever that was. At this point, I'll say 26 check-ins, and I'm not sure who it was that was transmitting, if anyone, at that point. I didn't see anyone transmit, so. Okay, well, we're up to 26 check-ins. Back to you, Miss Billy, KE5ICX.
KF5JHA. Oh, you got it. You typed it in on Echolink. Yeah, it was Justin trying to check in. I heard him over Echolink, but I didn't hear him on RF. Okay.
That was WX4JJ. Welcome to Skynet. Glad you could make it. All right, next up is astronomical Q&A. So if anyone has any astronomical questions, please come now with your call sign. We have very knowledgeable folks here on this net. We'll do our best to answer your questions. So if anyone has a question, please come now with your call sign. Not hearing any questions, so we'll move on to our 73 round. Are there any checked-in stations with any other remarks or questions? Please come now with your call sign. Are there any final check-ins, or does anyone need any fills? If you're checking in, this will be the final check-in round for Tom, KE5ICX. If you'll take one last call out, and we'll see if anybody wants to get in for the KF5TDS.
All right, very good. And I do have, Justin, I got you checked in, WX4JJC. I'll take additional check-ins, final check-ins. This is the last call. Please come with your call sign, your name, where you're transmitting from. Well, I guess that's all we'll get out of them. We got 26 check-ins, Miss Billy, from KE5ICX.
That tonight we had 26 hands participating on the air, so thank you to all who checked in this evening. We hope you'll join us here next week and every Saturday night at 9 p.m. to discuss astronomy, space, and space exploration. On this net, the sky is never the limit. We're always looking for net control stations for this and all the other DARC nets. So if you'd like to try your hand at this, contact any of the net controls by sending an email to nets@w5.org. You can follow topics and discussion about this net and astronomy in general on Facebook and Twitter, as well as our audio and video streams, video archives, and other useful internet resources by going to w5fc.org at the conclusion of this net. So until next Saturday night, this is KF5TDS, Billy, and I'll be closing the net at 22:22 local time and returning the repeater to normal amateur use. 7-3, everybody, and enjoy the evening discovering the universe. And remember, next up, the next net is the Afterglow movie net at 10:30, where they'll be discussing second try on last week's movie. So come back at 10:30, and we'll have a good movie discussion. So 7-3, everybody.
Thank you, Miss Billy, for a good net. Excellent net, in fact. This is KE5ICX. We'll be back at 10:30. You don't necessarily have to have seen the movie. If you like time travel stuff and you get frequent nosebleeds, this is the movie for you. So we'll be back at 10:30. This is KE5ICX.
Nosebleeds are also referred to as epistaxis. KI5GRH.
Well, they're so popular in time travel movies, so that's to be expected, I guess.
They are definitely no fun to experience, however. And the repair to get them to stop bleeding is even worse. KF5GRH.
All right, fair enough. Okay, going to make my break, and then we'll be back here in a few minutes. This is KE5ICX, clear.
Bye, Tom. That was a great net. KF5GRH.
KI5STS. Time travel is so yesterday or tomorrow, I'm not sure.
Oh, you're almost as bad as JJ. No, that ranks right up at the top.
Normal state.
I'm completely operational and all my circuits are functioning perfectly.
Afterglow Movie Net.
Alright, this is Kilo Echo 5, India Charlie X-Ray. My name's Tom. I'll be your net control. We'll see if we can do this again. It didn't work out so well last week, but I think it was the repeater. I guess we'll find out when I ask for check-ins in a little bit. This week's movie is last week's movie. It was a Canadian film called I'll Follow You Down. This was released in 2013. Here's the plot. In 2000, a professor from Toronto goes to Princeton, New Jersey for a conference, does not return, devastating his wife and young son, Earl. He is eventually presumed dead. 12 years later, Earl talks with his grandfather, who suggests that the father's disappearance might have been the result of a scientific experiment involving time travel. Earl is determined to find out the truth. He is a mathematical genius and solves the equations necessary to recreate the time travel machine his father had built to go back in time into 1946. As he's working with his grandfather on this machine and the math and physics of it, Earl's girlfriend, Grace, becomes pregnant and makes him doubt the necessity of this endeavor. However, when Grace has a miscarriage and realizes that this timeline and he's living in is a direct result of his father's leaving, none of this would have happened naturally had his father come home. This timeline is a dead end and has to be corrected. With renewed vigor, Earl finishes the time machine. He uses the time machine to go back to 1946 and finds his father is working with Albert Einstein. As he finishes the work Einstein started, Earl reveals his identity, and a chain of events would lead him here to his father. He then reveals to him that, knowing his dad's mind, he knew he wouldn't be that simple. It wouldn't be that simple to convince him to come home. Earl tells him to go back home and give his family the life that they deserve, and to remember that he, Earl, is what he is because of his father's mistake. Then Earl shoots himself, dying instantly. This burns the message into his father's mind that he has to go back and prevent all of this from happening, which of course he does. On reception, the review aggregator for Rotten Tomatoes gave it a 33% of 9 reviews of positive, with an average rating of 5.1 out of 10. Oops. Film has Haley Joel Osment, Gillian Anderson, yes, that Gillian Anderson, Rufus Sewell, you may remember him from Man in the High Castle, and Victor Garber, famous actor. So those are the folks that are in it. Music by Andrew Washington. Let's see here. Oh, and it was 93 minutes long. I guess we might as well tell you that. Okay, this is what we'll do. I'm going to go ahead and take check-ins now. Just come with your call sign, your name. If you want to give your location, that's fine, but most importantly, did you see I'll Follow You Down, the movie? So we'll get started. Well, take check-ins.
November 5, Bravo, Bravo.
Kilo 1, Golf Bravo Delta.
Whiskey Bravo 5, Oscar Zulu Lima. Brenda, yes, I did see it.
An N5BB did see it.
And GBD did not.
Okay, let me discombobulate. I got Bill, N5BB, he did see it. K1GBD, no, he did not see it, but that's okay, that's Guy. And then WB50ZL, Miss Brenda, yeah, she saw it. Any additional check-ins, please come out.
November Tango 5, Tango Mike. Tony in Dallas. I mostly didn't.
Kilo Golf 5, Bravo Zulu Whiskey. Hold on. I need to turn down my boat. I actually did see it.
Okay, we've teased out a couple more. I got NT5TM Tony. He says he mostly didn't see it, which means he saw some of it. So I got him in there. I got KG5BZWJ. He did see it and forced himself to watch it. I know he sent an agonizing email about the whole thing. Anyone else like to join us? Please come now with your call sign, name, and did you see? I'll Follow You Down from 2013. Okay, usually we'll get some folks, usually after TrafficNet finishes up, so we'll start at the top. Mr. Bill, N5BB, we'll go ahead and start with the plot for anybody who's listening. I'm sure everybody knows the rules. What we do is we talk about the plot first, followed by characterization, and usually followed by a third round of anything you want to say about the movie having to do with special effects, music, acting, you name it, whatever it may be. So we'll start with the plot. Bill, time travel story. What did you think? N5DB from KE5ICX.
Okay, Tom, this is N5BB. By the way, I was the only check-in last night. Who was net control? I think it was Brenda. And I'm the only person that checked in, and that's why I suggested, because it was so noisy, that we just give up. 2 people do not a net make. And there's not too many here tonight, unfortunately. Anyway, so what can I say? Plot of a time travel movie. As we realize, this is dangerous ground because, there's always holes, big holes in these plots. And it's hard to understand, whether they have anything to do with even slightly possible physics. But anyway, I thought, as far as ignoring the science part of it, as far as just a movie, the plot was okay. I was a bit, I guess the word is unhappy, mortified, worried when he and I'm going to have to say this, and it's going to be it's a killer if you haven't seen the movie, by the guy shooting himself. I thought that was pretty bad. I realize, I guess, why. And I realize, I guess, if he actually made it back in time, that he was convinced that it was the only thing he could do. But I guess what he didn't know is if he killed himself, would his young self still continue to exist? For all he knew, the moment he went back in time, his young self would disappear. So I guess in that way of thinking about it, it was a brave thing to do, but you could also view it as kind of a mentally ill thing to do, because he was kind of breaking down before he went back in time. He was really having trouble in the future. He just couldn't survive in the future. So, I don't know. That bothered me greatly. What else about it? I guess the plot, other than that, was, I guess, kind of enjoyable. I wasn't bored by it. It was pretty obvious he was going to build the machine and go back. I mean, how else could the plot progress? This is N5BB. So it wasn't that difficult to guess kind of what would happen. And when he went back, I guess that was one possible thing, because you knew he had a gun. Anyway, I guess that's it. N5BB.
right, thank you, Bill. I'm just writing some notes here. Let's see, Guy, he checked in, K1GBD. Guy, you heard the plot, and we even gave the spoiler ending. Would you want to watch this movie? And if so, say yes. If not, what's your favorite time travel movie? From KE5ICX.
Well, Tom, I tell you, I love a good time travel movie, especially a good time travel movie. It sounds like this maybe wasn't, but I'd be interested to check it out anyway. I mean, it's a pretty cool subject. I know we kind of beat it to get death on this net, but it's just so compelling, and it's so interesting to see the different ways people do it. So, yeah, I would check it out. I just was not, I'd heard about it at the last minute, or I would have checked it out, actually. So, and as far as my favorite, yeah, that's a tough one. That's a really good question. Yeah, I don't think I could answer reliably, but good question. All right, K1GB.
All right, thank you, Guy. We'll give you an opportunity to make other comments here in a little bit. Next up, WB50ZL, Miss Brenda. Your thoughts on the plot for this movie from KE5ICX.
This is WB50ZL. Well, I kind of liked the movie. It moved along well, and you liked the people in it. It was interesting. But all time travel movies give me a headache. You just can't wrap your brain around it. It's like, yeah, but. And yeah, there's two theories on time travel. One is you could not go back and kill your grandfather, no matter how hard you try. It just wouldn't happen because it didn't happen. And another theory is that if you change history, then you start another timeline. So if there was a lot of time travel, there could be an infinite number of timelines. And you know, you don't really know what happened at the end. You assume maybe the dad came back, but Errol has created a new timeline where he doesn't exist, and you know, when he doesn't come home, his girlfriend and his grandfather are going to be heartbroken. So, you know, I'm not sure if he thought of that. I'm also intrigued with the idea that the dad is going to go back and talk to Einstein. What if he had done that instead of dying? Then Einstein might get the credit for this, and he might be the one that invented time travel, and so, which would make the dad's research moot. So that's a fun thing about time travel movies is just so many fascinating ideas about it. All right, back to net, WE50ZL.
Yes, all good questions, which I'll bring every answer you could possibly want and not want here in a little bit. Next up is Tony, NT5TM. Tony, how far did you get in before you turned it off and unplugged your TV and threw it in a bathtub full of water from KE5ICX?
Well, it wasn't that bad. I got about 15 minutes in, and then I realized that I thought the North American CUSA party had ended at noon, and I was so wrong. It actually ends at midnight. So I suddenly got motivated to switch to the HF bands and eat pizza for dinner instead of, like, actually participating in real life. From what I saw, I thought the plot was kind of reasonable, but I was frustrated because although they had some big-name actors, I think Rufus Sewell is pretty great. I just didn't feel like the performances were grabbing me. It's like, okay, I can see what's going to happen, and it doesn't grab a hold of me anyway. So that it's kind of like the plot was reasonable, but I felt the characters just didn't grab me enough. That's kind of covering at least 2 rounds here of Afterglow participation, but I got to get back on HF. I'll still be listening NT5TM. I'll even try to jump back.
All right, Tony, I understand you have divided loyalties on 2 different bands at least. Okay, well, we may come back to you. I'm sure we will. Next up is Jay, KG5BZW. Jay, you sent a long email to me. You were tortured by this film. Tell everyone else what you told me from KE5ICX.
Okay, KC5ICX, Kilo Echo 5. Oh my, one of you says I'll get your call sign right. I actually have to find my message, and I did not really see that part I had complained about a second time, so give me one, hopefully only one little moment. Yeah, let me reset. Alright, I got here. Yeah, it was a third of the way through the movie, and the grandpa said something that just really ultimately ticked me off, and I couldn't go watch the rest of the film at that point. It was just the insinuation that it's the narcissistic attitude that it's like only my life matters, which his comments seem to portray to me, like, or only our lives, the family lives matter, not anything else. The implication that that they could correct this, and it's like at the one time, the thing that's really bad for me is that it's like as a person that my mom died of brain cancer, and you just hate that kind of. You want to go back in time and change everything, but you also have to accept that you live in this universe. It is what it is, and that rejection of it is what it is just so infuriates me. Anyway, I could go longer if I wrote it up properly, but anyway, that's beside the point. So I didn't watch that again. I figured, well, we're going to discuss it tonight. I won't watch that part again. I'll just see the rest of it. And the funny, actually, let me reset. The funny thing about the movie after that segment is that it almost, well, my other comments were about how, let me see. Well, I said that if somebody had told me what a grandpa was, that I can't say I wouldn't smack him. And I didn't. It's not like I don't like A Wonderful Life or its alternate universe timeline scenarios, but that we are not having. I'm reiterating what I just said. Like the universe is ours to muck with because one person is not happy. Forget that. Blah blah blah. Yeah, it was. We're not. I'll read this directly. Let me read that. Maybe I read more into his comments more than I should have, or misheard something. However, most stories following some sort of alternate universe timeline trope handle it better in that they say we're not supposed to be here, or they use some sort of micro-universe scenario or whatever that measures will existing universes, or at the very least there's enough hand-waving that you don't get to think about someone living in the current universe that actually is doing quite well, fine, but might be totally screwed over once the timeline we ought to be on is set back in place or whatever. So the reason I wanted to say that was because, well, after that interaction, the butt actually kind of flowed like what I said was true, or in some sense, in that, well, okay, this is going to be very hard to resolve, so we're going to just throw all these things at the characters that put them all unhappy and say, okay, this is the only option, so we'll go back in time, okay, and of course them killing, the main character killing himself, that's actually, it's like, oh, there's this weird kind of strange logic to it that I won't actually say is as bad as what the grandpa said, but it's still, it's like, I like what Bill says, like, I understand it, there's still something wrong with it, but I understand it. So, yeah, it ended up being not totally horrible, except for that one thing. Very predictable, very, very predictable. And I also agree with what Tony said, that the actors didn't really give their best performances. So, I'll leave it at that. KQ5BTW.
Okie dokie, thank you, Jay. We are talking about the movie I'll Follow You Down from 2013. This is a time travel film, so I'm going to go ahead and ask if there are any additional check-ins at this point before I give my comments. If you would like to join us this evening, whether you saw the movie or not, just let us know you're out there. Please come with your call, your name, and whether you saw I'll Follow You Down. Please come out.
This is Kilo Charlie 5, Mike Papa Oscar, Jamie, Mobile. Did not see the movie.
Kilo Bravo 9, Sierra Oscar Kilo, Sean in Fort Worth. Yes, I've seen the movie.
Okay, we picked up two more. I got KC5MPO, that's Jamie. He did not see the movie, he's mobile. I'm still going to ask you, think about what your favorite time travel movie, Jamie, and I'll be back to you in a moment. And KB9SOK, that's Sean over in Fort Worth. He did see the movie. So we'll go to Jamie, KC5MPO. You didn't see the film, but what's your favorite time travel movie? We'll add that to the list. How about that? From KE5ICX.
It caught me there. I really can't think of one right now. If I think of one, I'll get back to you. KC5MPO.
Oh, man. Okay, well, I've got a bunch, but at any rate, Sean, KB9SOK. Sean, you saw the film. What did you think about, we're talking about plot right now, from KE5I6.
Yeah, this is KB9SOK. Well, I thought this movie was actually okay. You know, time travel, as everybody says, always kind of a tricky thing. Everybody kind of has their opinions of how it would actually work and how it would impact things. But I really didn't find this one too hard to follow, actually. You know, I get the point of, you know, obviously the father went back and got killed, which then obviously altered the future. So actually, he's the one that altered time first. So it does make some sense that they would want to go back and stop that from happening. Now, had his father just passed away from, you know, being hit by a truck or some weird accident, and they wanted to travel back in time and change it, then they would be the people altering the future. And that would seem like that would be the wrong thing to do. If you follow it, just keep it basic. Don't think too deeply into it. They were actually probably trying to do the right thing by putting things back to the way they should. and stopping anybody from messing with time, because we all know that would be a bad idea. Could you imagine if we really had that ability, just how badly we would screw that up as humans? It would not be good. You know, people couldn't resist themselves from, they wouldn't be able to just observe. They would have to alter. So it's kind of a scary prospect to even have that ability, but we sure like to think about it a lot. There's an awful lot of movies that go down that road. Now, I felt all in all the movie was a little bit slow at times, but I do think there were some clever parts of it. We usually sit there and complain about how these movies never have any development of characters, and it's just all about explosions and action. And this one was, I think their focus was more on character development, even if some of the acting felt a little bit flat. It's still, they were trying to develop some characters here, which was kind of a nice change. And I think it's kind of a nice change that we've seen so many time travel movies do the time loop thing, Groundhog Day essentially. You know, every Star Trek series has done it, and pretty much every other series. And I'm just totally burned out on that style of time travel type flick. And so it's nice to just kind of see a simpler plot. So I do think in some places they were kind of clever with, you know, they gave you just a little bit of their quote-unquote pseudoscience here to make it look like they knew what they were talking about, but not enough for you to actually say, no, there's no way that could be. But then there's also movies we've seen where they give you no kind of detail. So they gave you just enough detail to kind of make you think that they really did know what they were talking about. So I thought that was smart. They stay away from any crazy special effects. You know, they kept it very simple. You know, obviously keeps your budget down. But also, you know, if you can't do the effects correctly, then just do the basic stuff like what they did. Because when they're done badly, it just takes away from the movie. So I do think that they made some clever choices in the plot of this movie and how that flowed along. So, you know, all in all, yeah, this wasn't by no means my favorite time travel movie, but I thought it was okay. It was worth watching. You know, I don't know that I would watch it again, but I would definitely give it more than 5 out of 10. You know, maybe 6.5, maybe even a 7. So all in all, I thought it was okay. Back to net. This is KB9SOK.
Oh, Sean, thank goodness you were here. You had more to say than probably all of us combined on this film, so very good. We'll tap on your expertise here again in a little bit. All right, my thoughts on the film itself. Yeah, I thought it ran a little slow, like others did, even though it was only 90 minutes long, 99 minutes, I guess it was, something like that. Because this is sort of an actor's vehicle more than anything else, there's nothing in the way of special effects, which really, as Sean mentioned, I mean, you can have a movie like that where you don't have explosions all the time and things blowing up and all of that, and you can have people in a room talking about things and the ethics of in this case, time travel and what might have happened and all that. I think, though, and I'm going to clue in on the next round, is that I felt that the actors, as good as they were, did not have enough really compelling dialogue. I saw motivations, but not really enough. I didn't feel, you know, at the twist ending, it was a surprise, but it wasn't a shock. Let's put it that way. That's the difference between the two, because I didn't feel the character was as compelling or as interesting or as likable as I had hoped they would be. None of the characters really had that. So from a plot standpoint, when you're trying to drive the story along, you're not quite convinced that they're going to be able to do it. No special effects? Of course not. That means then your actors are on double duty. They've got to do more. And I didn't feel like we got that. At least that was my kind of feeling about it. Some things that I'll go ahead and pick on the lack of special effects. The time travel machine, which is a little box, and it has the sound of a jet engine. I thought that was kind of curious and fun because how do you get power to the time travel machine? Do they like plug it into the wall because they have to, send it in? And where is this jet engine? Or the sound of it? It's very loud, and of course you would think that would create a commotion and racket, and people would come from all around wondering where all that noise came from, or even the bright lights, which I think were a part of that as well. Nothing, man, nothing. And then the other thing that I always find curious is that when you have a time machine and you go back into time, you want to get back to the time machine. So you got to go and hide it somewhere. So they hide it behind a couple of boxes. You don't think that the maintenance people aren't going to notice it at some point? I don't know. It just always seems odd to me. Of course, let me reset. Of course, in Doctor Who, it was the police call box, which everybody knows is around anywhere and any place you go. So I thought that was kind of, an interesting thing, because it's always the problem of where do you put the time machine. And a lot of times it gets stolen and things like that, which is what they did in the H.G. Wells time machine. So nothing there that's a surprise. Let's see here. Some of the things about the time travel stuff that we always have to deal with, and that is does time change or not? Does it create a new branch or not? Can you go back into time, and if you could, how would it alter the present? And are these other timelines still moving? The populist physicist, I think Brian Greene, has brought up these points sort of and mentioned that there could be multiple timelines, there could be multiple us, an infinity of us all walking around making all the different decisions. So there was already somebody who had made Elon's decision for him way back when, because there's a zillion million of him anyway. So in that case, then it wouldn't have mattered one way or the other. And also, when you think about it too, and this gets into the nosebleed section of the thing, is that how do we know that wasn't supposed to be? That it was supposed to be that way. That this second looping in time wasn't to be. That in fact he was in the right timeline, and that by killing himself in the old timeline, he's destroyed the real timeline, which is the alternate timeline that we use to get to the first timeline. So therefore, the second timeline is not the real timeline. It's the first timeline of the original timeline. So it's an iteration of the timeline. I have a bloody nose. So I just wonder about those things. And there was also a mention, too, about Star Trek and all of that. Well, you can't get by without Star Trek. If anybody has ever seen yesterday's Enterprise, which is the one where we send Tasha Yar back to a war with the Romulans, or I guess it was, to save the Romulans and prevent war in the Federation, they just dropped a trailer for Picard, which is a follow-on series. It's on Paramount Plus, and indeed we have Guinan who knows the difference between the timelines, and Picard's back checking that out. Again, how do they know? What's the difference? I guess we'll find out in that 10-episode thing when it finally drops. I think it's on March 3rd. So are you self-aware on the timeline thing? I don't know. I really have to question it, because it's a weird, wild thing. So, time travel. I think it's just and one last thing on time travel. If we had time travel and it preserved the timeline, or it somehow affected the timeline, a real single linear timeline, then we'd have a lot of people from the future visiting us. But it never happened. And I remember the University of Michigan did a study and did a Google search on Google searches to try and find if anybody from the future might have actually Googled a future event sometime in the past, maybe a decade before. No such luck. I'm sorry. But then people from the future could have gone back into the past, stopped the people doing the Google research to preserve the original time. Never mind. So that's my story, and I'm sticking with it. So now I'm going to go back to the top. We're going to talk about characterization. So Bill, N5BB, tell us about characterizations for I'll Follow You Down from 2013 from KE5ICX.
Thank you, Tom. This is N5BB. Well, first I've got to make a additional comment about the plot, because if I understood what somebody said, I think it was Brenda, she thought it wasn't clear what happened at the end of the movie, the last scene. I thought it was very clear. So think about it, when the kid, now an adult, goes back in time to where his dad had gone. He's going back to when Einstein was alive. He's going back into the 1950s, I believe it is. And at the end of the movie, his dad, the guy that originally went back in time, his dad appears at the front door of their house when he's a kid. So at the end of the movie, we're in the same timeline as at the very beginning of the movie, which means the dad did come back, just as his son wanted him to that place. So, in other words, he went away on the aircraft, he went back in time, he came back in time, and went back on an aircraft, I guess, because he had his suitcase with him and everything, back to where he had left at the proper place. So that's what it appeared to me happened. So it appeared to me that his dad did what he wanted him to come back to help the family go. Now, with regards to the science of that, one of the current, rather popular versions of physics is the many worlds interpretation, which is first put forward in the late 50s, I believe, by Hugh Everett. And in that interpretation, every quantum mechanical interaction essentially splits reality into two based on that particular interaction, which means there are an infinite number of worlds continually being created. Essentially, everything that could possibly happen will. So one way of viewing all this is that everything is futile, because it's going to happen. Whether you do it or not, it's going to happen in one of those universes. So when the kid went back in time, he left that time trail at that point in time, and because he killed himself in the past, he was screwing up that particular timeline. But there's an infinite number of other timelines with all kinds of other iterations occurring. So if you view time that way, then it's kind of meaningless to go back and try to change anything or anything, because there's jillions of timelines. Which one are you on then? Who knows? Anyway, characterization. I was bothered by the way that the kid that grows up and then goes back in time after his dad, Errol is his name. This is Anti-BB. I was a little bothered by the way he was played. He was played at a character that's so bothered that he becomes, to me, nearly mentally ill there before he goes back in time. So that was bothersome. I don't know if it was due to how it was written or how it was acted or directed. My guess is all the above. But that portrayal bothered me. I didn't really like that character. I really didn't. I thought he was screwing everything up. His girlfriend bothered me slightly, but not really very much. I mean, she was between a rock and a hard place. His mom, the way that was played, was also bothered me, because why in the world did she commit suicide? That made no sense. I didn't see anything about that made any sense. So I don't know if the characterization of the mom and her son both bothered me. I mean, both of them committed suicide, essentially. And I found that very disconcerting in 5BB. So, and the portrayal of their dad that went back that didn't seem to care about the family. That also bothered me. So I guess I was bothered by all these characterizations. Okay? I guess that's the big part of it. So one part of me kind of wanted to like the movie, but the other part of me was bothered by all these dysfunctional characters. Enough said, N5BB. That's all.
All right, good analysis, Bill. Thanks. Next up is Guy, K1GBD. Guy, have you figured out your favorite time travel movie yet? And what do you think so far of our comments from KE5I6? Okay, he may have checked out. Okay, next up is WB50ZL. Miss Brenda, tell us what you think about the characterization.
This is WB50ZL. I did think Haley Joel Osment was a little odd. There was just something about it that was a little off, in my opinion. But kind of always felt that way about him. You know, people die all the time, and usually their spouses don't commit suicide. I mean, I know it happens, but you know, I'm not sure why she just fell apart and never could bounce back. It's like, go get some therapy or find something to live for or some purpose. You know, they're just trying to exaggerate the point that by him not coming back, it ruined their lives. Now, his son went back to stop him from time traveling. You know, all he really needed to do was stop him from getting killed. He could have met with Einstein, he could have poked around, and then he could have gone home, and everything would have been fine. But here he's got his dead son's body there. Is he going to leave it? And what will the authorities think about the modern clothing? Did he have a cell phone on him? Or, you know, any kind of modern clothing or anything modern that would confuse authorities? I wonder about that. You know, and did the dad just head back right away, or if it was me, I'd say, you know, I think I'll talk to Einstein first. I could not resist that. I would want to do that, and it wouldn't have changed the outcome. He could still go home and see his family. The main thing is just not get murdered. But they acted like it was the fact that he was time traveling was the problem. Well, he already did time travel, so, you know, going back was, you know, I mean, to me it didn't exactly resolve things. Characterization, I love Victor Garber. He was really good. And everybody else is pretty good except for Haley Joel Osment. I wasn't buying into that for him. And he certainly didn't seem like a genius, mathematical genius to me. All right, back to net, WB50ZL.
Okie dokie, thank you, Brenda. Tony, NT5TM, are you still there? And do you have any comments this round? Please come out. I suspected as much. KB5BZWJ, you did touch on characterization a little bit. You want to say some more? from KE5ICX.
This is Kilo Golf 5, Bravo Zulu Whiskey. Actually, I wanted, there's actually a couple more things I think I want to say plot-wise, which, although it's not quite true, I agree with several comments. It's not really resolved very well. I mean, the only thing that's different now is that the father figure has the wisdom not to make the time machine or not that, because he still has the time machine. They don't even resolve that. It's like, what does he do with the time machine? He just resolves not to use it further or something. And how is that going to keep others from just? I don't know. And yeah, there's just a lot of problems there. I agree with the mom killing herself at that particular point just seems too easily contrived for the movie. In fact, that's what did I say earlier? The whole movie after that seems like a series of contrivances just to get the characters to do whatever and that actually kind of makes me feel less for the characters, because it's actually, in a bizarre twist of fate, they are fated to execute this poor plot story. They go through this poor plot because the writers didn't really have the gumption or whatever to get out of what they had painted themselves into. It's really hard for me to sympathize with characters that are basically doomed to fail here, and I really don't buy that the father is really that much more wise at the end because of all the. I mean, at least he's alive, I guess. So there's that, but. It's just hard to look at the characters, given how there's the comment of non-playable characters, that they all kind of seem like, even if those that the characters developed in some ways or another, they all just seem like NPCs. So, let me reset. I don't think the actors actually I don't think the actors acted poorly. I think they did whatever they could do with that plot. But I don't know. I want to say it busts down on arrival, which kind of, but there makes everything else down on arrival. That's a bad analogy, but I'll stick with this because I'm still. I'm getting into that rambling mode, so I need to just shut up and let the next person say their thing. Kilo Golf 5, Bravo Zulu Whiskey. Back to that.
Okay, thanks, Jay. I understand completely, believe it or not. Jamie, KC5MPO, you're back, or we're back to you. You got any comments? Did you figure out your favorite time travel movie, and would you watch this film from KE5ICX? dropping like flies. Next up is Sean, KB9SOK. Your thoughts on characterization from KE5ICX?
Yeah, this is KB9SOK. Yeah, I think it's been pretty well said. These characters they do just seem a little off. Even starting with the father and his obsession. It's very clear that his work's more important than his family was, even though they kind of insinuated that, he was making time with the family before he got obsessed with the time machine. But it is a little odd. You'd think that his son going back in time would have been much easier to convince him that he needed to change his ways and just not mess with time. But, instead his son had to go to drastic measures. But yeah, no, I didn't buy his son as a genius either. Something did seem a little off with him. Yeah, I'm not sure if it's the writing or the acting. Because we've seen all these actors and other stuff that have done very well. So maybe it was just the way it was written or, even produced. But, yeah, the son just, he wasn't 100%, believable. Obviously his original motivation was his mom. But then, in the end, the thing that pushed him over the edge was the miscarriage of his child, which to me, that was one thing that didn't make any sense at all, was, why would his father not be around and cause the miscarriage of his child? I don't know if they were saying just the stress he was putting on his wife because of his obsession, was what caused her to lose the child. But that just seemed, why was that the catalyst that pushed him over the edge? So that didn't make much sense to me at all on that part of it, why that was the proverbial, I guess, straw that broke the camel's back. But, so yeah, that was just strange. And his mom, people do commit suicide. They did make mention she was getting help, and she was on lots of medications, it sounds like, and then she left the medication, that's when she fell apart. I have had a family member that was on heavy mental medication, and when they quit taking it, their moods, and they got kind of out of control. So I can kind of see maybe why that would have happened, why it would have maybe between remembering back and just coming off the meds, maybe, of course they needed some reason to initially motivate the other. So, they attempted to build the characters. They tried to give you some depth of why the mom did what she did. They tried to give you some depth about the grandfather, but the grandfather never did really grow. He acted like he understood why his grandson wanted to give it up, but not really, So, they started to kind of go down a decent path with developing them, but then they just kind of stopped. And so I think that's, kind of really what hurt the movie the most. Once again, you got to put aside the whole, time travel thing, like you said, gives you nosebleeds. You can look at it so many different ways. You just kind of got to go with it sometimes. But, yeah, I think that's what hurt the movie the most was just really the characters. Now, the one thing I was disappointed with was at the very end there, obviously we see the father come back, but we never do find out, did it really fix things? We never did find out, did the son still get with his original girlfriend? Did they have their child eventually? Did they both go to the better school? Being that was the whole focus of the movie was fixing the future, they never really truly told us whether it did or not. So that was kind of disappointing, I felt, as well. But anyway, back to net. This is KB9SOK.
All right, thank you, Sean. I think you actually kind of hit it, that, the characters themselves sometimes were acted in an irrational way or what seemed like irrational and left us also in kind of a lurch. Now, I got to tell you, I have a family that's completely dysfunctional, so seeing people acting the way they did in this film is not that unusual to me. Or the fact that they never get out of their ruts. They stay in ruts and are unable to fix it. Or the fact that, in an example, the son ends up taking care of the mother, acting as the adult when it's all said and done. That stuff is not all that unusual, I guess, in many families. And maybe that's the problem I got with it. If that's the case, why are we even bothering telling the story? What is the ultimate aim? Is that people are dysfunctional and that somehow or another we're going to fix it by going back into time, and then when we do fix it and we come back out, we're short shrift and we don't even know what happened. Is it fixed? I don't know. Are you looking to make another sequel? Maybe, perhaps. I don't know. Again, that's a problem, I think. And considering the caliber of the actors, I think they weren't given a lot in the way of character motivations when it's all said and done. I don't know. It was difficult. I don't know about the rest of you, but I think Haley Joel Osment was miscast in this. He may have actually put some money into it so that he had a starring role. I'm not entirely sure. This is about the only thing I think he's done since he did, what was it, AI as a kid, and he had done Sixth Sense as a kid. And he was very good as a kid, so maybe I'm prejudiced in thinking child actor all grown up. I don't know, it just didn't seem like he was playing an adult enough role, perhaps? I don't know. It just can't put my finger on it. All I can say is that I didn't find the characters compelling enough to care about them. I think their own little foibles and problems was too much of a refer back to my own life and crazy people, and so I didn't get the amusement or the satisfaction out of it that I was probably hoping I would get. So that was the problem I had with the film, as far as characterization was concerned. I forgot to ask if there are any additional check-ins. Anyone else here would like to join us, please come now with your call sign name. And did you see the movie I'll Follow You Down from 2013?
Kilo India 5 Golf Romeo Hotel. Melissa, Dallas, I have not seen the movie. I'm just up late enjoying your net. KF5GH.
An insomniac. KI5GRH. Melissa, do you have a favorite time travel movie?
Oh, I am so terrible at movies. I can't think of one, but I do like the concept of time travel. I think I do time travel every day. KF5GRH.
Well, you know, we all have time travel machines. Mine's a cardboard box, and my refrigerator came in, and when you climb inside, if you wait 10 minutes when you climb out of the cardboard box, it's 10 minutes in the future. So think about that for a few minutes. Maybe 10, to be exact. All right, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to open it up. I think folks are grasping at straws on this particular film. So if you have something you would like to talk about, discuss, just come on out with your call sign and I'll go down the list. Anything you'd like to mention, no holds barred, having to do with time travel or the movie or acting or special effects, whatever, you name it, just come on out with your call sign and we'll go down the list. Okay, well, right, I kind of thought this movie ran out of gas too, so we're all in agreement, I guess. That's what we're doing next week. I'm going to go ahead and update the list. Chaz, K5JHA, did send me a link to Attack of the Killer Tomatoes. It's been kind of running in the background as a movie we would watch, but it hasn't been available for free streaming all during that time. Well, he found it, and it is available, I think, with commercials, so I'm going to go ahead and post it. That'll be our movie for next week, Attack of the Killer Tomatoes. That should be a lot of fun. So I'm going to say 7-3 to everybody. Have a good week. Have a good weekend. Have a good Sunday tomorrow. And don't go traveling in time without first consulting the manual that comes with the time travel machine. See y'all later. This is KE5ICX. Clear.